how to get the most out of your official rep over the clearing period. Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Please, can you click on the next slide, Vicky? So we're just going to kick off with a couple of introductions. So firstly, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Oscar, and I'll be hosting the webinar for you guys today. Some of you might be familiar with me. I also work in the client services team, and I'm also some of your client success managers as well. And I also specialize a lot in the official rep product. I'll pass it over to you now, Joe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Woodcock, the head of community here at the Student Room. Been at the Student Room for about 6 years now. You may recognize my alter ego, Evil Homer, on site potentially. But yeah, my role is to kind of make sure the community's safe and getting the support and advice that they need. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. I'm going to pass it over to you now, Emily, to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Emily Auger, and I work as part of the social media team here at UCLan. So I'm responsible for the running of the university's official ambassador account, and I also support the student ambassadors with their account as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And I'm going to pass it over to Maddie.
Hi, my name's Maddie. I'm a student at Montfort University, which is based in Leicester. I'm a student ambassador at the university, and through that, I work on the TSR in our little team.
Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me, everyone. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do a quick overview on what we're going to be covering this afternoon. So first, we're going to be talking about how students are feeling. We're then going to do a recap of clearing last year, so looking back at a lot of official rep activity. We're then going to do a panel discussion, followed by some key takeaways and some food for thought for results day and clearing this year. And then we're also going to save some time as well for some questions, comments, and feedback. Next slide, please. I'm going to hand this over to Joe.
Thank you so much. So we thought we'd give a little overview of what we're seeing on site, especially over this academic year, especially this year as well. So since that equal consideration deadline on the 31st of Jan, we've seen 72 million page views across all of the areas on the Student Room. So a huge amount of activity from students and users looking for all sorts of things, but 44 million specifically coming into our study help universities and university courses. So that thing that everyone on this call is looking to support and engage with. Those kind of trends that we're seeing specifically this year, we're seeing an increased interest in that degree apprenticeship. We're seeing some concerns, offer making queries and concerns more than we would in previous years. Something that's big that we'll touch on a little later as well is those financial worries and money management, as I'm sure everyone could understand. And then those students who have just started their university journey, more questions about settling in, making friends and those kind of things. So we've got 2 quotes here on the side, but yeah, just to kind of iterate what the kind of student pain points and that student feeling really is at the moment. It feels like a massive jump to make and it feels scary. That's the main thing. I know I've done a lot of research about this, but sometimes I doubt my own ability to make a decision to do a course that I haven't even considered until a few months ago. I know I would enjoy the biology course and it's a fairly safe option as well. I think it's, yeah, just to reiterate, it's a huge decision that we're putting young people through here, and the stresses that students are making the right decision for them and they're considering everything they need to kind of really coming to the forefront there. But yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, those worries of applicants, that's kind of that sense of belonging, as we touched on before, is still really high on the agenda for students, as meeting people, making friends is frequently mentioned as another really high worry related to starting universities in our sentiment polls that some of you may have seen. Another common theme we see each year is that of financial concern, uncertainties with managing finances at universities, but specifically with the cost of living crisis that we're currently experiencing, changes to the loan repayments and the ever-changing economic landscape in the UK generally. Students are calling out for new, targeted and relevant support and advice that can sometimes go above and beyond the recipes for beans on toast. Yeah, students are really looking for support and really specific advice to help them make that transition to university. Yeah, and that's what we can all really help with here at the Student Room. Next slide, please. Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate some of the things that we've seen, we asked our 2024 applicants, what's your main concern around starting universities? And you can see the result of the poll accurately echoes some of the conversations and queries we're seeing on site. So these are the main concerns for the 2024 applicants. including that 7% that voted for the money management issues. Financial issues are a huge concern, with over half of the respondents and 28% opting for making friends as one of their top worries as well. So yeah, again, those kind of financial concerns, social integration, all those kind of things externally around the specific nature of which courses to apply for, which universities to apply for, are big challenges for students, especially this year. And I think that's where we can all really make a difference. We don't want to engage with students who have decided to pick universities that are outside our choices or our experiences, but we can really kind of resonate with students and tell them what it was like when we were going through university, or what individual campuses are like, or how they made friends, societies that they're looking at, or cheap ways to kind of go through that university journey. So it's that auxiliary support that students are crying out for on the student room at the moment, and that I'm pretty sure we can all really help with. Next slide, please. And again, just to reiterate, these are quotes pulled directly from the student room. Again, basically just asking how people cope during uni financially without support from their parents, how long it took them to get a job, any grants, bursaries that people are aware of. One student both excited and nervous about going to university, which is something obviously we can all resonate with. They've not had the best experience in secondary school. They're worried they'll end up in the same situation at university in regards to that kind of making friends and connections. Yeah, we have a student here who's just finalised their student finance, and the maintenance loan only covers 3/4 of the accommodation, leaving them incredibly worried. And these are the type of students that we need to support, so to make sure that they know that there are other options, that they can get jobs, that there are potentially bursaries and other support that they need, so that they'll make that confirmation and decide to go to university post results day. And then obviously students who are stressed about moving to the UK from abroad, already worrying about that money situation, potentially some of the other situations. Again, for that audience, that making friends and at university is a huge pain point for them. Next slide, please. And yeah, once again, just to reiterate that kind of impact on rising living costs and how much it's changing student pain points and opinions. We asked that question, thinking about your firm choice, university, have you made any of the following decisions because of the cost of living crisis? And in total, over 3/4, 78%, had made some changes to their plans as a result of the rising living cost of living. For half of that 2024 entry, rising cost of living impacted their firm choice university decision making, be that looking at cheaper locations by city, be that looking to live at home or commute to a local university. Great. Next slide, please. And just super quickly, just to really reiterate what a huge opportunity this is to connect with students over that results and clearing period. Yeah, on results day specifically, A-level results day alone, we had 257,000 words written, over 1 million page views, over 300,000 users on our site. And as part of that, we had 764,000 official rep posts viewed, which was a 38% increase from last year. So the support and advice that you guys give not only directly helps the students themselves potentially make huge decisions, but it's being seen by all our other users, loads of other people as well. We have younger audiences on the student room who may see the incredibly kind and supportive advice given and think about that institution and that university moving forward. So it's a huge opportunity for everyone to not only support that big audience that are desperately looking for help, guidance, just a little bit of comfort and connection, but also to influence the younger years as well as they go through something similar either next year or the year after. So yeah, just something to think about. And then next slide, please. Yeah, and then this is kind of why I do what I do, and I know why so many of you do what you do, but yeah, just some words of support and advice and praise for our official reps here, especially in the middle. I'm in awe of the university reps and TSR experts on here who are being so practical and supportive, and that's why we do it. It is a difficult and stressful time. It's high pressure for everyone, for students, for universities, for everyone involved. But the advice and support that everyone gives is second to none, and makes such a difference to those students going through a really hard time. So something just to iterate there. I think I'm passing back over to you, Oscar.
You are indeed. Thank you so much, Joe. So what we're going to do now, we're going to just do a bit of a panel where we're going to ask each other some questions and then be in the best position to respond. So without further ado, I'll begin. So I'm going to kick off with some pre-results day questions. The first being, does anyone have any tips on managing the stress leading up to results day? I'm afraid I'll only get DDD. Does that mean my university prospects are ruined? Emily, what would you say for this one?
Thanks, Oscar. So I think for this message, I'll begin by reassuring this person that even if they don't get the grades they're expecting, then there are still lots of options for them to consider. I would let them know that they can reach out to their top choice university on results day to see if they can offer any flexibility. I think in order to help them manage stress leading up to results day, I'd encourage them to maybe try and find ways to preoccupy their mind. They could spend time with loved ones. I'd suggest some ideas, maybe like going for a walk, visiting some tea with friends, things that will take their mind off leading up to that results day, because understandably it is a worrying time for many. I'd also suggest that they'd be as prepared as possible, so they can help with managing their stress. I'd encourage them to prepare ahead of results day. Have a think about and note down other university courses they would be interested, just in case they don't get the grades they're looking for. Yeah, I'd make a list and maybe reach out to other universities on the day to see if they can offer any other options for them. Because they might be able to offer maybe a similar course, even if it's not the course they're looking to study. But yeah, that's the advice I would give them to help manage their stress.
Yeah, brilliant response. I think another thing just to sort of mention as well is that you'll really be surprised by the amount of different options there are, regardless of your grades. And I think you already mentioned, but don't forget that you can actually still be eligible for a lot of your top choices. And leading up to clearing, there also might be other actual potential universities that you can still apply for. You may even do better than you expect. So yeah, definitely worth considering a few of those things. So yeah, thank you, Emily. Moving on to the next question. And this is, what is it like to move out for university? I'm quite shy and I'm worried it might be overwhelming, but I still want to experience halls. Maddie, what would you say for this one?
So I wouldn't mind like sharing my personal experiences. So I had the same opinion. It's like, oh, I want to move out, maybe experience student life a bit, but it can be quite daunting moving away from home. I've never moved house before, so it would be a first. And I have moved out for university, despite my family home being like 40 minutes away. And to overcome that concern, I lived in a studio flat. So I still got to interact with people, go out on social nights if I wanted to, but then I had the safety of my own little place, my studio, where if anything got too much or I was a bit like, oh, I'm not too sure, I had my own safe space. I understand that can't be an option for everyone. Studios stereotypically can be a bit more expensive, but it's always worth having a look around. You might find one at a reasonable price. So I'd always suggest that as an option, because I didn't even know about studios until I was already in my second year at college and looking for universities. I would always say as well, just try and get out there. Everyone will be in the exact same boat. Despite being very local to Leicester, I still know no one going there. So I think it's a time to come out your shell, which can be very difficult, but it will be the best thing you could do.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think even talking from my own experience as a student, I remember just sort of seeing what sort of socials or activities the uni had to offer. I think it makes it much easier to make friends when they have the same interests as you. So, and yeah, as you mentioned as well, commuting to university can also be an option as well. So yeah, amazing response. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
also on
sorry.
socials, it's good to encourage them maybe on Freshers Week, let them know that, there are teams during Freshers Fair that they can approach and talk to about socials as well. So that is an option for when they come to help with their nerves as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. So for the next question, is the clearing process as nerve-wracking as people claim? Joe, what have you got for this one?
Thanks, Oscar. I think there's always a level of anxiety and stress from now until results day. So I do think it's probably important not to sugarcoat answers about this totally. So I would start by saying that clearing can be stressful time for some students, but then to really emphasize ways on mitigating that. I think we've already mentioned a few. but so to mitigate so that if they have to use clearing as an option on results day, that they're super prepared, that they know what they need to do. They've got a support network around them so they can get what they need out of it. So we need them to know when clearing opens, for example, and potentially what they have to do to get in contact with universities, you know, be it on the phone, be it through UCAS. They need to think about the type of universities and courses that interest them as well. If they have a first choice that they have in mind, but might need to lean back on clearing, we'd ask them maybe to think about what it was about the university or the course that really resonated with them. Is it because it's a city university? Is it because it's a campus university? What was it specifically? So that when they start looking through what can be a large list of options at times, that they can really kind of focus on what's important to them. And then to make sure that they have a support network around them where possible. Obviously we can't presume, so hopefully that could be potentially a school or college, guardians or parents or friends, but to have people around them that can kind of help support, because it is a big decision, and it can be a stressful time, but maybe even then to kind of really focus and lean on. It's also really exciting. You finish secondary school, you're moving on to university potentially. This list of options over clearing are new paths for you to take, and to kind of really emphasize that maybe with the nerves, there's the level of excitement there as well. So yeah, for these kind of questions, I think we have to acknowledge that it is stressful for students at times, but just to, as long as they are as prepared as possible and they've done all the steps that they need to beforehand, that preparation can really bring down that level of anxiety a little bit. I think for those kind of scenarios, that's what I'd be emphasizing, I think.
Yeah, well put, Joe. I think really sort of emphasizing that can actually just be an exciting time. But yeah, of course, make sure you put in the right steps ahead of that. Amazing, cool. Well, in terms of the next question then, this is, how important is location and ranking? I've chosen a university that I like, but my friends say it has a bad reputation. Emily, what would you say for this one?
Thanks, Oscar. I'd say that rankings are important for some courses, such as medicine, dentistry, but I think it's also important for students to actually see what the environment is like at the chosen university. So as a rep, I'd let the person know that it's important to do what's right for them. It's also good to have a support and input from loved ones, but at the end of the day, it is their decision, and they're the one that's going to be studying at the university for the next few years of their life. I'd recommend looking at factors such as location, the course and the facilities at the university, but also the support that's available to the students at that university. I think that's quite important as well. So on location, maybe ask them to consider how far away they want to live from loved ones, or are they looking to be closer to home? Would they like to live in a big city or maybe a smaller town? Consider where they'd feel most comfortable. I'd encourage, if they haven't already, maybe to go along to an open day, to have a look around the campus and the wider area to see if there's something they can see themselves living for the next couple of years. But also to look at other things like societies, clubs, and all those kind of wider aspects. But I definitely say ultimately it is their decision on where they'll be studying.
I would also say, sorry, about university rankings. They take into a range of various different aspects, such as research, teaching quality, and there are so many more. So it's not always entirely accurate as well. So completely what Emily said, it's the person's choice at the end of the day. If they've loved the university, gone to an open day, because you can have some amazing staff, amazing experiences at a university that's just not ranked very high, but it doesn't mean it's not very good or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely, Maddie. And if you're looking at particular, I think it is down to the course. So if you're looking for traditional courses such as humanities or politics, you might want to consider universities with a bit more history. So I think that's also, the course is something to consider when you're making your decision.
Yeah, very well put, both of you. I think, and even just with the city, you know, even if you can't go to an open day, or if there's not an open day on, you can always just go and check out the city or campus and get a feel for it yourself. So yeah, I think these are all really important things to consider. So yeah, sort of cut out the noise. Don't listen to what your friends and family say. This is your decision. So yeah, couldn't agree more. I'm now going to sort of focus on some results day questions. So the first one being, I missed my firm choice and I really want to go to this university. Shall I take a gap year and reapply? Maddie, what would you say for this one?
I would say again, it's a really difficult situation, and I feel like on the day that you can only kind of speak of it if it happened to you like on the day. But my top advice would be saying not to rush into anything. You don't want to make any hasty decisions, and if you ended up rushing a decision just out of anxiety or everyone pressuring you, you don't want to make a bad decision. If it's something you really, really want, it could be an option, taking a year out, having that year to reevaluate your opinions. Perhaps if you know anyone at the university, you can go to more open days and speak to the student ambassadors, which is a really vital piece of source. And there's also an option, perhaps you can retake exams. I think that it'll be individualistic, so it depends on the college and what subjects, etc. But that could always be an option, retaking exams, hoping to get a bit better results. And then always a gap year, it has many benefits. So even if it wasn't the ideal situation at first, you can have the opportunity to travel for a bit, work on some experience. So I know for nursing students, sometimes they do require experience. So perhaps you can go away and work on that, and then you'll have an advantage of all those that went to university straight away.
Yeah, very much agree with that. And, you know, it's not the end of the world if you don't get into your sort of first choice. It's better to actually maybe, you know, take the year out, maybe even get that work experience, because of course that will look really good on your application as well, should you wish to apply. So yeah, I think very good answer there.
Yeah, I'd also add to that, like Maddie said, it's important not to rush into a decision. I think they can also contact the university they've applied for to see if there is an option maybe to defer. As I said, we don't want this person panicking and they're choosing a course they don't really want to do and then dropping out. So I think suggesting other options, also like gap years, is also really good to do as well.
For sure, definitely not worth rushing into it. You should take the time you need to make the right decision. Amazing answers, guys. So I'm going to go to the next question, and that is, what is the process for changing course? I have an offer for civil engineering, but I'd like to switch to computer science. How can I do that? Emily, what would you say on this one?
So we can see that they've got an offer. So for this one, I'd suggest that they should get in contact with the university they've applied for. It's not quite clear if this person wants to switch to computer science at the same university, but if they do, it would be good to advise them to reach out to the university directly through their clearing contacts, which are available on their website. And yeah, it's important that we stay friendly and positive, but don't kind of give them any false hope. Just give them the options that are available. So as a rep, I might say check out the website, see if there are places available. Because yeah, I think directing them to the website for the contact details is the best thing to do in this case.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, if you can meet the entry requirements, then of course it could be a possibility. But yeah, always just reach out to the relevant people on the course if you think you can match those requirements. So yeah, perfect. Thank you very much for that. The next question is, I missed the grades for my firm choice, but have an offer for my insurance choice through clearing. The league tables are similar. Any advice on deciding which university is better for business and how to make this decision quickly? Maddie, what would you say on this one?
Very similar to the other question, you don't want to make any hasty decisions. As Emily said, there's a chance that, you know, if you don't enjoy the course, you don't want to drop out. So even though you need to make a decision sort of quickly, you don't want to make a hasty one and regret it later on. So take your time to evaluate your choices and everything about that university, courses, location, and university life, etc. And at the end of the day, your insurance could always be a good option for you. I mean, it was your second choice. It could turns out you enjoy your insurance choice much better than what would have been in your firm. So again, I'd recommend speaking to student ambassadors at the university, contacting that team, like because they might have inside information, they might have been a previous student before they started working for the university. So I definitely recommend speaking to someone on that team, and if you can get someone on the course, even better. And then at the end of the day, you can always defer if you're not ready for that choice. And then, as we've said, do a gap year and anything involving with that, like traveling or work experience.
Amazing, yeah, amazing response. And I think, you know, to really emphasize, you don't need to feel the need to rush into decision. It's better to actually take the time, maybe even defer, just to ensure you made the right decision, because, you know, it's such a big choice. You don't want to end up going to university just because you had to make a choice right away. It's better to actually take your time and evaluate sort of all the options. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for your response there. The next question I have is, I usually get A's in maths, but I ended up with a C, and now my clearing options are very limited. What should I do? Joe, what would you say on this one?
Cheers, Oscar. I think here we'd kind of emphasize, if you haven't got what you expected on results day, that there are still options open to you. Without knowing the ins and outs of the student, it's potentially that they're a little bit disappointed. And although they've said there aren't many clearing options open to them, it would be good to maybe investigate if there aren't many clearing options open to them, or there's just some that don't excite them currently, so that we can kind of explore. In this specific example, it's also maybe worthwhile asking them, potentially, obviously in a very soft way, why they did end up getting a C. Have they spoken with their teachers? Is there any of those remark opportunities available? Potentially looking at retaking. It'd be interesting if they're expecting an A and then have ended up at a C, just to kind of investigate why, because that could open a couple of other options to them. And again, then from there, we just need to reiterate all the amazing advice we've already kind of spoken about. We'd be pushing them to speak to the university that maybe had the course, see if there are other avenues. Could they get in anyway? Is it worth taking a year out? Are there things like foundation years, similar courses with lower acceptance grades, and things like that? And then if that isn't the case, I think we just really, again, need to start investigating what was it about that course or that university that really excited you? What are your current options with that C in maths? Is it that you just haven't seen anything that's really exciting you now, and we can go and explore other options? You know, more often than not, those kind of slight disappointments in results day in terms of their grades don't have to stand in the way of what you want to do in the future. Obviously, there are some courses and some institutions that have that kind of higher level, but for the majority of students, it might be a slight disappointment. It might be a little bit of a change of plan, but it doesn't stop them getting to where they want to go. So it's just kind of re-emphasizing that their grades are really good, that they are where they are, and that there's avenues open to them. So you're giving that emotional support as well, but then walking them through the practical steps that we've already spoken about: resits, remarks, then the institution themselves, and then really investigating the options that are available to them in clearing to make sure that they can make a choice that will still get them where they need to go and will still be really exciting and an amazing opportunity and experience for them, I think.
Definitely. And you know what, as well, you can even do a foundation course. That's also an option. It's definitely not over if you don't get what you want. I think that's really important to emphasize. So yeah, thank you, Joe. Moving on to our next question, and this is more of a sort of student finance related question that we have. I'm going through clearing this year. How does that affect my student finance, and what steps should I take? Emily, what would you say on this one?
So this question around student finance, the next steps will depend on where they are in the process. So if they've applied in the UCAS cycle, then they'll probably have applied for student finance. So in this case, as a rep, I would advise they need to log into their student finance and make any amendments there. Whereas if this person has come into clearing on results day and hasn't applied for UCAS at all, they're in a different boat. So they won't have contacted student finance at this point. So I'd say it would depend on the inquirer's personal circumstances. But I think the key message to offer this inquirer from a university would be to inform student finance as soon as possible. This will give them the best chance to get their loan on time. You can look at directing them to student finance website where they can find out more information. I know they do have a page on offers guidance on student going through clearing, so maybe guide them to that, and you can also offer their student finance phone number as well to help out.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really helpful information, especially as student finance can always be quite a tricky scenario for a lot of students. Amazing. Thank you very much. Going on to our last question. This question is, I really want to go to my chosen university and I missed the grade by 1. Usually they would accept 1 grade lower, but they aren't accepting me now. Is there a chance I could be accepted tomorrow when there might be leftover places and fewer students in clearing? I'm going to pass this one over to you, Joe. What do you think?
This is really difficult, right? And I think it comes down to the difficulty that we have advising students, be it official reps, be it our sales staff, be it the volunteers, where we can't predict accurately 100% what's going to happen tomorrow. It is a student's decision at the end of the day, and all we can do is kind of support and advise. We don't want to tell the student that, yeah, there'll be places tomorrow, just chill out, wait, because there might not be. And depending on the course or the institution, maybe probably not. We also, don't want to say with 100% conviction that there won't be places and then end up feeling that kind of wrath of a disappointed student the next day. So again, I know our volunteers on site and a lot of you and the staff at TSR kind of get bored saying this over results, but it's always, please pick up the phone, please call, please get in contact as soon as possible. So that's what I'd be doing. I think, get in contact with the university specifically and see what they say. But again, research alternative options, really think about what it was that spoke to you about that initial choice, see if there's alternatives in clearing. If there's alternatives that feel really close, then, it's risk reward. I understand that, but maybe you don't need to take that risk. Maybe you do follow through clearing and find another institution. If you can really say hand on heart that there's nothing else that's speaking to you and you don't want to do anything else, then your options suddenly change. And your options become maybe waiting to tomorrow, maybe reapplying next year, taking a year out. But again, that sits on what are you going to do for that year, your kind of family situation, all of those kind of things. So yeah, the thing I'd really iterate here is we don't want to be making that 100% call for any student. We can really advise and support, and deep down we kind of know, or we at least think we know what might be best, but this is a student's choice at the end of the day. But yeah, just to reiterate, do that research and really ask yourself, is there nowhere else that you'd be happy to go? And if not, then maybe that decision kind of makes itself.
Yeah, I think that's really well put, Joe. And I think one thing to also consider when it does come to clearing, that every day in clearing is different. So tomorrow won't be the same. So it's always just worth checking in every day and just sort of keeping your options open. And yeah, you may even find a better choice. So just sort of keep all your options open, because every day in clearing is different. So that concludes the panel discussion. Thank you very much for all your answers, guys. I'm now going to move on with the presentation. And we're now going to focus on how you can make the most out of the official rep over clearing. Next slide, please. So first, we've got to focus on your forum. So what I mean by your forum is essentially you have your own space where you can update and monitor your own threads and sticky threads. You'll be answering any sort of questions that are posted in on your forum. And to give some sort of examples on what sticky threads are, these are things such as FAQs, ask a current student, accommodation options, well-being and revision tips, and even a clearing thread as well. And on your forum, you'll be sort of positioned to congratulate those who have applied or even received an offer. And why we suggest this is so that you can build and maintain your community by creating a positive perception of your university and encouraging discussions too. And as well, you'll be dedicating your time responding to 2024 applicants as well. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to show a couple of examples of how to best respond within your forum, sort of techniques to use. This one comes from the Brighton University clearing thread last year. And I think what's really good about this specific post is actually they've added all the relevant bits of contact information, whether that's a phone number or hyperlinking to their website. Clearing, of course, can be a really stressful time. So just adding those critical bits of information that they can easily access makes it much easier for the student. And then secondly, I think another thing pointing out is you can see they've actually answered a couple of questions within the post. This just really sort of maximizes the amount of engagement that they can get and allows more students to potentially respond to that post. Next page, please. Thank you. So this next example, I think what's really good about this one is actually how they provide the information. So you can see they've done it in a list of bullet points, which does make it a lot more digestible for students to access, having a list of bullet points which are really brief. And I think how they've given the advice is also not just useful for this specific user, but actually because they've quoted it, which is a formatting technique that you can use when using your official rep account, means that everyone else can see it. So even if someone's not asked the question, you can see actually their potential question has been answered for already, which is really good. It'll benefit a lot of users. And then lastly, I think they've kept a really friendly tone throughout. I'll get onto a bit later on why that's really important. Next slide, please. This next example is really important at how to sort of give a really neutral response. So this student here is wanting to know which is better when it comes to university. And I think what they've done really well here is actually this official rep hasn't attempted to sway or change the user's mind. They've remained neutral throughout on this matter, giving pros and cons. They've also asked follow-up questions, which is really important. You really want to show that you genuinely care about giving the best response possible. And they've even provided their own anecdotes, which really sort of humanizes the response. You really want to make the user feel that this, they're more at ease, and actually this can feel much more relatable. So yeah, a really good response here. On to the next slide, please. So obviously I've covered how to best respond within your forum. Now I'm just sort of going to give some best practice for your official rep account when posting over on-site during clearing. So I think one of the best bits of practice I can recommend, of course, is your tone of voice. Make sure it's friendly, helpful, and empathetic at the same time. You really want to encourage discussion. So asking follow-up questions, ask if they needed anything else, really just sort of shows the user that you genuinely care about giving the best response possible. And just remember they're human. Provide individual responses, share personal experiences, sign off posts with your name. I think the best sort of analogy I can give is just talk to someone as if you're bumping into them on the street. And that obviously follows my next point nicely, is just avoid any sort of direct marketing speech. Don't copy and paste, and don't try and advertise yourself. I think a lot of students can really read straight through that, and that will not enhance your reputation on site either. And then my last point is, can you keep the conversation on site? So no linking over to Facebook or any other socials. You really want to try and keep the conversation in or outside your forum. Next slide, please. Some other useful bits, just to sort of get ahead of the clearing, is the little watch icon here. Is if you just remember to click that in on your forum, you'll then get up-to-date notifications on when something is posted in your forum, so you won't miss anything. You can also edit your post, so you can see if maybe your response, especially over clearing, is out of date. You can actually edit it and amend it. That's obviously really helpful for the student as well. This next one here, I doubt you'll need to do this, but in the instance that you might, if you're needing to report something, so whether someone's sharing misinformation or they're advertising, it might be worth hitting the report button, and then our moderation team will be able to look at that as soon as they can. Private messaging, again, I doubt you'll need to do this one, but in the instance where maybe someone's sharing some personal information, or maybe they're responding to something that's totally not relevant to the thread you're on, it might be worth a private message. So if it is the case, then all I would suggest is maybe ask them in advance. Just say to that student or user that I think this discussion might be worth having in private message. And of course, if they're happy with that, then you can carry the conversation in the private messages, which is great. And then lastly, the clearing mega thread, and I'll go into a bit later on what I mean by this, but we'll have all sort of your clearing threads in one central place, making it much easier for students to access. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to sort of discuss about getting involved in conversations across the site, so outside your forum. Next slide, please. So where you'll find a lot of these conversations on the student room are on a lot of our threads like applications clearing UCAS, A-level forum, BTEC forum, university life, all the sort of university courses forum, so all the sort of relevant subjects you might go on to study at your university. Definitely worth checking in on a few of those, especially if the university does specialize in any of those subjects. You'll be able to access this all through the slides at the end of this, so don't worry about if you can't access it right now. These will all be available afterwards through the links. Next slide, please. So obviously I've spoken about what to do, but what about what not to do? So one of the things I should really point out is you should definitely not advertise on what you only have available. As well, you should not ignore the struggle of students. Clearing is a really stressful time. You really want to make sure you're empathetic as possible. And again, you really want to you really do not want to post communications that read out like ads. Students will read straight through that. And as mentioned earlier, it will really, damage your reputation on site. So avoid any sort of copying and pasting from a university website. Again, what you should not do is post a thread in a random forum with no context at all. I think it will just leave a lot of students confused. And as I mentioned before, clearing can be a really sort of stressful time. You don't want to add to that stress by sort of posting something that's totally not relevant. You know, starting a thread as well about a topic and then just using it as promotion. Again, students will read straight through that and think that's just yourself marketing. So yeah, I think those are things you should definitely avoid. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cover some bad examples. So next slide, please. So in terms of these examples, I'll read them out. I'm holding an insurance offer for mathematics and computer science, and I can't decide. What you should not respond with is something like, we're currently ranked this in the league table in 2021, and we have this student satisfaction rating. I think what's really bad about this response is it just doesn't answer the question. You completely ignore what they're asking and instead just focusing on yourself. And I think when you do that, students will really sort of, you know, not be happy about that. And you'll really sort of see a lot of dissatisfaction. You really want to actually try and come across you genuinely care about giving the best response possible. So yeah, avoid anything like that. The next response I have is, I have a clearing offer to study at this university. Something not to respond with would be, I've graduated a month ago and I've studied for this number of years. There are so many fun events here held throughout the year, such as, yeah, again, this one just totally ignores the actual question. You've really sort of gone off a tangent and just sort of, you know, promoted the university, talking about the fun events. It's just totally not answered the question. So really make sure you've read through your response to give the best response possible. And the last example I have is, this year things were not perfect and there were no distractions and I worked my best, but I still failed. What you should not respond with is, have you considered doing a foundation year instead? You could give our clearing hotline a call. Again, this is just something not to respond with because, you know, you can see that clearing is a really sort of stressful time for students. You're ignoring the struggle completely by giving a response such as this. So I think when you actually are responding to something, really get an understanding of what the student is asking instead of just talking, you know, giving the sort of clearing hotline and then that's it. So yeah, those are things to definitely avoid. On to the next slide, please. So I think quickly before I wrap up, just a quick response checklist. So in terms of do's, definitely have a friendly tone of voice, really sort of empathize with them as well. You know, it's a really stressful time for them. Check you've understood and directly answer the question. So as I mentioned beforehand, read back the post to yourself, reread the question if you need. Ask a question in return. So really sort of get a feel for what they're asking, and it will just show to the student user that you care as well. Sign off post with your name. So really sort of humanize the account, make it feel as relatable as possible. And then read back the post to yourself. Make sure you've directly answered the question. And then some don'ts. Don't include any sort of unnecessary irrelevant links. Make sure you've answered the question sort of as clearly as possible. And yeah, do not copy and paste the same response to multiple answers. Otherwise, you may end up getting reported on site, which is not a good look. Next slide, please. So in terms of supporting your official reps, make sure you sort of ask questions and offer advice about posts on site. And of course, you can also reach out to us on the official rep lounge and in the official rep feedback thread. And you've also got mine and Joe's embarrassing usernames there for us to ask any sort of questions. And also remember to sort of sticky threads if you need us to. Please reach out to the client services team or just reach out to me on site and I'll be able to sticky or unsticky any sort of threads. And as well, keyword rep alerts or any login queries, then you can reach out to the client services team. As well, yeah, like I mentioned, you can reach out to client services or you can reach directly to your client success manager. Any sort of best practice and on-site reminders you can ask them for too. Same for resources. We have plenty of resources and videos that we can give. And as well, we can obviously offer sort of bespoke trainings and advice. We have a monthly training every first Wednesday of the month where we just sort of do an official rep training of some best advice and sort of things like we've covered today, some examples too. And then as well, you can monitor your own engagement and you can also access your UPP report and discussions can obviously be available with your account manager. Next slide, please. So some key takeaways before we finish. I guess most importantly is just create a clearing 2024 thread, be prepared for clearing, get that in there so you can have any sort of questions, encourage discussion as well. Make sure you have a presence on site. So really congratulate every student that mentions you and answer any sort of questions. So make sure you have that watch button clicked. Help students to make the balanced decision and support them in any of their choices. I can't emphasize this enough. Clearing can be a very sort of stressful time for students. So you really want to help them make the right choice. And then make sure the quality of response can really impact an applicant engagement. Read your post back to yourself and go through the response checklist if you need. And of course, you can contact us if you need any sort of additional advice or support. Next slide, please. And that concludes everything. Are there any questions? Okay. May we have a copy of these slides emailed to us? Yes, you will have the slides and the recording after this webinar. So yeah, you'll be able to access that easily. I see a few hands up. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to turn your microphone or alternatively put them in the Q&A or in the chat box and we can answer as soon as we can. See another. Oh, thank you very much. Any other questions? I see a lot of hands up, but if you're unable to turn on your microphone, then you will need to put it in the Q&A or in the chat box. Yeah, any sort of questions are appreciated.
Has the chat box been disabled? Because it's disabled for me. It says the host has this attendee chat.
Okay.
Q&A should work. I'll just but if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you so you can just ask it over that as well.
Oh, I don't have a question to ask at the moment. It's more just to point out, yeah, that the host has disabled the attendee chat. At least that's what's showing up for me.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, will we be able to send the recording to our reps? Because I think they would be happy to see this presentation and everything what you say about how we should reply.
Yeah, definitely you'll be able to get the recording and all the presentation slides. So at the end of this call, we've got the sort of sign up list and we'll be able to send that to everyone after this call.
So everyone will have an access, not those who are currently here. Everyone left.
So
yeah,
and
okay.
we'll make sure that we have your email on file. So if you needed the recording and the slides to send to other people, then that shouldn't be a problem.
Great. Thank
I
you.
see a few, no worries at all. I see a few questions. So I'm just going to read some of these out and the team will be, or I will be happy to answer. So the first one is, would you not recommend linking to any blogs then, even if you've given advice throughout your response, but end with a blog link? Would anyone, Joe, what do you say on that one?
Sure. Yeah, I can jump on that. I think we want to be really, it depends on the context. So what we certainly wouldn't say is ending every post with a link to the same blog or a different blog. If you're responding to a user and their specific issue, say it is, you know, worried about kind of here or what's a first year university student's experience like at X institution, and you do have something very specific on your own website, we kind of do allow that to happen. So if it feels very, very directed to the student and the student's kind of almost implicitly asked for that resource, then yeah, please feel free to go ahead. What we're not looking at doing, I suppose, is kind of using posts to direct traffic at every single post. So yeah, if a user's question feels like the best answer is kind of a short summary on the student room and then a link to a blog or something else that you have as a resource, then yeah, we'd be happy to do that and we kind of allow that, but just kind of make sure we're using it sparingly and kind of directly, I think would be my advice. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Joe. Going on to the next question. Someone's asked, last year we created a clearing thread and asked for it to be pinned, but then someone created one for us. So students started using that one instead, and all our links from our threads were missed and we got no questions. How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? I think one sort of instant solution, and Joe, you can chime in here as well, is that you obviously can send this over to the client services team, and we can make sure that we pin it ourselves and make sure that, you know, that is the sort of official clearing one, making it really clear for students. And hopefully that should really get the message clear in your forum. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add to that, Joe.
Yeah, so we do create any university that hasn't kind of created those threads by a certain date, we start creating just so every institution has the opportunity to have that traffic coming in. Because of that, sometimes there can be those kind of little crossovers. So yeah, just to echo from Oscar's point of view, if you reach out to us, we can make sure that doesn't happen again by any of the means that Oscar mentioned in a couple of slides back. And yeah, worst comes to worst, we can merge those. But yeah, just to kind of reiterate, it's kind of done with best intentions, but there can sometimes be a small amount of over-eager crossover, I suppose, on our part and from some of our volunteers and students. So an apology for that from last year, but yeah, reach out to us and we can get that sorted just in case that happens again.
Awesome, thank you, Joe. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question all okay. Moving on, as we've got quite a few questions. If you work for the university, is it best to respond as the official university account or as a personal rep account, like your handle? So I think one thing I'd always suggest is always respond as your university, but just feel free to put in your name. I think just by doing that humanizes it. So yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. So, but totally up to you if you just want to have the university or just have your name. There's no right or wrong, but I think it's always really important just to sign off as someone or at least your university, and maybe with a name too, which is really encouraged. So yeah, hopefully that answers it all okay. On to the next question. Do you think we need to invest extra resources / ambassadors during the clearing period? I mean, I always think it's not worth investing, but definitely putting more attention into, because, you know, clearing is a very busy time. So if you do think it's worth, you know, making sure you have more than one rep account involved over the clearing period, that might be an internal conversation. But yeah, I really emphasize that you should, yeah, have all your attention during the clearing period, as it's a very busy time. So yeah, hopefully that answers it all okay. If you needed some extra resources as well, then we can send those over, which would be really beneficial. Just going to be scrolling through some of these questions now. Can you link to any content? For example, if someone's asking about the facilities and we have a social media content on TikTok that shows this, is that okay? Joe?
So this is, again, one of those grey areas. I think if we can try and avoid kind of other social platform links that aren't kind of based on your site, that be best, because the guidelines specifically for our users mean that they aren't allowed to share their kind of social profiles to keep the conversation on site, to keep them safe, to make sure that we can kind of moderate and safeguard our students on our website. So best to try and keep it to kind of directing to pages on your site. Now, obviously, if you're directing to a blog in the same way that we did before, where it felt very directed and there are links once they're on that page to potentially following your social accounts, that would be the avenue we'd preferably allow. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Joe. The next question is, what is the client services email? The email is, and I can write this down for you at the end if you need, is clientservices@thestudentroom.com. But please let me know if you'd like me to send that over otherwise. The next question is, can you audit your forum? We have a lot of questions from there years ago that are no longer relevant. How do you clean it up? Joe, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, that's totally fine. If there's anything specifically that feels like it's misinformation, and it's a particular worry, then yeah, certainly, again, reach out to Oscar or myself through the means that we said, and we can kind of do that for you. The thing I'd iterate though is, as a forum site, as like a content site, it's good to have that kind of historic conversation and to be shown that you've had questions and answers and activity for years and years and years. So I wouldn't be too concerned if they're just questions that aren't misinformation, the information hasn't changed massively, but it's just older content. I personally wouldn't be too worried, although we can address that if you are still concerned. However, you're right, if there's advice being given by an official rep that's changed over the years or a different email address, we can kind of do one or two things. We can clean that up and move content away, so users can't find that, but equally we can maybe go in as a team and edit those posts to go, this information has now changed, so, you know, from date 2024. So it very much depends on the concern that you're having specifically. More often than not, from my experience and from what our users expect from the student room, though. I don't think they're too concerned seeing older content at all. It's what they expect across the other areas of the site. But if there is something specifically that you're worried about, then please reach out, as Oscar's mentioned, and we can kind of address that on a one-to-one basis. I think that might be the best course of action.
Amazing. Thank you, Joe. And I believe that is it for questions. Well, in terms of any other questions that have come in, I think we've answered. I do see another hand up though. So if you'd like to ask a question, or feel free to let us know.
So when it comes to offsite chat, then we don't share any, like, well, unless if it's irrelevant, we don't share any offsite chat. So we don't share things like ambassador platforms or any of that if it's not relevant to the student's question. Or I tend to not share offsite chat anyway, but just wondering.
That is yeah. Thank you for the clarification. That is correct. We need to make sure that everything ideally is kept on platform, as that's what the users expect. But certainly, when need can be addressed with kind of pushing over to individual universities.
Yeah, because sometimes I see official reps advertising ambassador platforms, for example, student ambassador platforms. So we shouldn't advertise that then, or?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. I'm not sure if I see any other questions. So I do think that is everything. Of course, if you do have any more questions, then feel free to email clientservices@thestudentroom.com and we'll be more than happy to answer. But otherwise, I think that is it. So I've got to give a massive thank you both to Emily and Maddie for joining us today. I really appreciate you guys, especially on the panel, and for Joe for giving a lot of his feedback as well. I think it's been really, really useful to everyone. So thank you all for joining me today.